The advice to learn from your mistakes is a trap. It feels productive, but for most people, it's secretly a rehearsal for future failure. By the end of this video, you will understand the brain's precise mechanism for processing errors and why the way you think about your failures is likely reinforcing them. And chances are, you're running this faulty program every time something goes wrong, making the next attempt even harder. When something goes wrong, a project collapses, a conversation turns sour, a launch fails, your first instinct is to replay the event. You scroll through the memory, looking for the exact moment it tipped over. This feels like due diligence. It feels like learning. It is practice. You are meticulously strengthening the neural architecture of the mistake. The brain reinforces what it focuses on. By dwelling on the failure, you are getting better at failing. You are carving the pathway of that specific error deeper into your mind. The shame and regret that come with it act like a chemical accelerant, searing the pattern into your emotional memory. The experience becomes a cautionary tale your own nervous system tells itself, making you more timid, more hesitant the next time you face a similar challenge. Your brain's error detection circuit, a region called the anterior cingulate cortex, fires a signal. It's the neurological equivalent of a red flashing light, the uh-oh moment. That signal is automatic. Your response to it is a choice. But the default response, the one we all fall into, is almost always the wrong one. And it was designed for a world that has ceased to exist. That default response treats all failures the same. They are all lumped under one category, a personal deficit. This assumes every error comes from the same source. It's a critical mistake because there are two fundamentally different kinds of failure. The first is an execution error. You knew the right thing to do, you had a correct plan, but you messed up the execution. You hit the wrong key, you stumbled over a word in a speech, you miscalculated a number. These are fixed with more practice, more focus, more discipline. Trying harder works here. The second and far more important type is a model error. This is when you executed your plan perfectly, but the plan itself was based on a flawed map of reality. Your fundamental understanding was wrong. You sent a brilliant email to the wrong audience. You built a perfect product for a market that doesn't exist. You followed a career path based on a definition of success that makes you miserable. A typo is an execution error. Believing a fraudulent email is a model error. You fix them with entirely different tools. Most of our biggest, most painful failures in life are model errors. We consistently misdiagnose them as execution errors. We blame our focus or our effort when we should be questioning our entire map. Trying harder with a flawed map only gets you more lost more quickly. So how do you update a map when your brain is hardwired to defend its own beliefs? You need a system to bypass that defense mechanism. The US Army developed a technology for this. It's a social and psychological tool designed to extract clean data from the chaos of combat. It's called the After Action Review, or AAR. It's a deceptively simple process built around 4 questions. 1. What was our intended result? 2. What was the actual result? 3. What caused the difference? 4. What will we do next time to sustain strengths and improve weaknesses? This framework systematically de-emotionalizes failure. It forces a third-person, objective perspective. The questions are about the process, the mechanics, the inputs and outputs. The word I is almost entirely absent. The focus shifts from who is to blame to why did the system produce this result. This shift is the key. It moves the inquiry from the emotional, identity-driven parts of the brain to the analytical, problem-solving prefrontal cortex. Imagine a team just finished a disastrous product launch. A typical postmortem descends into finger-pointing and defending decisions. An AAR is different. What was intended? 10,000 signups in the first week. What happened? 600 signups. What caused the difference? The marketing message highlighted a feature users found confusing. The ad platform we chose has the wrong demographic. Our server crashed twice. Each is a mechanical problem, a flawed piece of the system. Each has a mechanical solution. It turns a morale-killing disaster into a set of engineering problems. This works wonders for teams. Applying it to yourself alone requires one crucial modification, because the risk of it collapsing back into self-blame is immense. And the solution involves something that feels strange: finding a way to celebrate. When you run a solo after-action review on a personal failure, you add a fifth question, a question that breaks the cycle of negative reinforcement. Before you ask what you'll do differently next time, you must first ask what part of the process worked. You must find a success signal inside the failure. Even in a total catastrophe, some things went right. Maybe the product failed, but your initial research was perfect. Maybe the presentation was rejected, but your slides were the best you've ever designed. Maybe the relationship ended, but you were more honest and vulnerable than you've ever been. You have to identify that component, and you have to consciously acknowledge it. Give yourself credit for it. This is surgical reinforcement. The brain, after a failure, is tempted to mark the entire sequence of actions as bad, avoid. This is a clumsy, inefficient survival mechanism. By finding the success signal, you are adding precision. You are telling your brain, this whole strategy is being discarded, but save this one part. This piece is good. Keep it. We'll need it for the next attempt. You are tagging the effective subroutines with a small pulse of dopamine. This prevents you from throwing out your best tools along with your mistakes. Critics might say this sounds like a participation trophy, that it's just putting a positive spin on failure. This misunderstands the mechanism. This is a cold, calculated process of data tagging for a complex system. Ignoring the parts that worked is like burning your entire library because one book had a typo. It's a catastrophic loss of valuable information. This system handles process failures. But what about the ones that feel deeper? The ones that seem to be about who you are? Failures of identity require one final, more profound shift in perspective. Imagine a scientist running an experiment. Her hypothesis is that mixing two chemicals will create an explosion. She mixes them. Nothing happens. Does she collapse in shame? Does she question her worth as a scientist? No. She says, interesting. She documents the result. The experiment was a complete success. It successfully produced a reliable data point. These two chemicals, in this environment, do not explode. Her hypothesis was wrong, but her experiment worked perfectly. It taught her something true about the world. This is the final reframe. Every action you take is an experiment. The hypothesis is, if I do X, then Y will happen. The outcome is simply a data point. When you fail, the experiment succeeded. It successfully proved that your hypothesis was incorrect. The failure is the clean, unambiguous result. The startup that goes bankrupt is a successful experiment that proves a particular business model was not viable in the current market. The founder is now immensely more valuable because they are one of the few people in the world who possesses that specific hard-won data. This perspective detaches your ego from the outcome. The goal is the acquisition of high-quality data, learning. And every outcome, pleasant or painful, represents successful learning. This is the mindset required to solve your biggest model errors. You have to become a scientist whose primary job is to find the flaws in your own map of the world. You have to run experiments specifically designed to break your own assumptions. When you operate this way, the entire emotional landscape changes. The binary of success and failure starts to dissolve. Both become mere feedback. One type of feedback says, the current model is accurate, continue. The other type of feedback says, the model is inaccurate, update. That's all. The emotional highs of victory and the crushing lows of defeat are symptoms. They are symptoms of tying your identity too closely to the outcome of a single experiment. You are the scientist, not the experiment. Your value is in your ability to learn from the results, whatever they are, and design the next test. True failure has a different definition in this model. The only real failure is to get a result and then run the exact same experiment again, hoping for a different outcome. That is the loop that traps people for years, for decades. Are you collecting new data, or are you just rehearsing old errors? The choice dictates everything. And this very mechanism, this detachment of self from outcome, is the same psychological engine that allows elite performers to function under unimaginable pressure, which is a completely different kind of mental engineering.